So if I'm in a relationship and there are a bunch of things that I love about the other person, and there are a few things that I don't. So what I know to do is to focus on the things that I do love and flip the things that I don't to the positive and put them into a list of things that I want about my mate.
Well, we wouldn't do quite all of that. The first part, you said I would focus upon the things that I really like, and we say yes. And then I would ignore the things that I don't like, yes. And then when you say, and I would flip the things that I don't like and try to make them into things that I do like, we say...
No, I mean, flip, there's a list of things that I don't like, flip them to a positive side.
But the thing that we've noticed is that in that flipping process, you turn upstream almost every time. It's better to just ignore them, and then they will dissolve before you. Because while you're working on them, you're focused on them. It's like every subject is two subjects. Pick up a stick, and on one end of it is what you don't like, and on the other end is what you do like. And we know where you're getting this. In other words, we've talked about pivoting. We've talked about when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. But there's something about seeing something that you don't want and then trying to, in that moment, turn it into an idea of what you do want that almost every time amplifies your awareness of what you do not want. It is so much easier to ignore it and just beat the drum of the parts that you do like.
Okay, so there's been a few things that I wanted to change about this situation that I'm in. And I flipped them, and seemingly the next day, that person has changed dramatically to the way I want it. So is there anything to that, or is it just coincidence?
It is not a coincidence. What it says is you were effective at identifying what you don't want, and then you were effective at identifying what you do want, and you gave that your stronger attention, and so you evoked more of that. And that really is what the power of influence is all about. We just want to soften. In other words, if someone is aware that you are trying to change them, it sort of steps all over their creative toes a little bit.
No, you don't want to do that.
And it would make one wonder, if he can do that, could he put a big green wart on my nose? And we're just wanting to softly encourage you to focus upon the positive aspects and allow the law of attraction to do all of the amplification, and it goes so much better. Because if you get invested, in other words, let's say you focus and you really evoke more of what you want from someone, and then some other influence takes them back, now you feel invested.
You have an attachment.
And then now there are higher stakes for you, and then you take it harder, and usually that sort of thing parlays into someone screaming and running off far away. And the note they leave behind is, "You're just too damn controlling." People often say, when you come together in the beginning, most of you are on your best behavior. First of all, you're hopeful to see things that you want to see, and you know so little about each other that you don't have negative stuff activated. And then most of you make that fatal error of saying, "Tell me about yourself." And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would make a different statement in the beginning of every new relationship. We would say, "I promise you, I'm never ever going to tell you anything bad about myself, and I would like you to do the same. I'm only going to present my most positive aspects, and I would like you to only present your most positive aspects." And of course, most people want to face reality more than that. But your relationships would go much better if you just focused upon the parts you like and leave the rest out altogether. Because we promise you, eventually, you see, if you're looking for what you want to see and looking for what you want to see and training yourself that way, then in time you can be just like our friend who sat here a bit ago and said, "I had a friend deliberately trying to insult me and I didn't notice it. How wonderful is that?" in such a different vibrational wavelength that even though they were going after it big time, I didn't even notice it. And so your quest as a co-creator in a relationship is to be oblivious to anything that bothers you and fully enlivened and awake to anything that thrills you. So if someone says to you, I'm sorry I did such and such, wouldn't it be wonderful if your response always was, oh, no apology necessary. I hadn't noticed.
Okay. So, on a slightly different topic here, but similar, you're in the moment and...
Jerry said to Esther, since you're using my toothpaste today, I would like to point out how neat my tube used to be. It's never had this big grip right in the middle of it before. And Esther said, I know, I'm sorry. But she could not change her toothpaste personality overnight. You just can't go cold turkey on something like that. And so the very next time, because she still had not replaced her toothpaste, she grabbed his toothpaste just like she always grabs his. She grabbed his like she always has grabbed hers and did it again and didn't even realize that she'd done it. Now this time when he found it, at first he could see it as a mindless mistake. But the second time, it looked like deliberate mangling of his toothpaste tube. But it was not. It was mindless managing of a toothpaste tube. It's just the relationship she's had with her tube of toothpaste her entire life. And so Jerry came out into the bus holding his mangled tube of toothpaste and looked deeply into her eyes. And Esther said to him, please tell me that this is not going to be the basis of our relationship. Because I don't think I can change. And they had a good laugh over it. And then fortunately, Esther has obtained her own tube of toothpaste. And so their relationship was saved. But we want you to realize that as you come together, you are different people and you have different ways of approaching things, and you should not ask even something as simple as that of someone else. In other words, you really have to let people be who they are and accentuate the parts that mesh and desensitize the parts that don't mesh, because there are people who destroy their relationships on things not much bigger than that, because the other one seems unwilling to change. And we say, change never happens until the calling. And we weren't calling Esther to the toothpaste in that way, you see.
I did something similar. I mean, not with the toothpaste and all, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that I made mean a whole crazy stuff. And I just realized that, she probably didn't mean to do that.
Even if she did mean to do it, it should not be offensive to you.
Okay.
In other words, because when you say my happiness depends upon your behavior, which I can't control and apparently you can't either, now you have a rocky basis. But when you say, I'm all right anyway, and there is so much in this buffet of interaction that I can solicit, why would I take something that isn't working and make it the basis of something that I want to work? Look for what you want to work, and the things that don't work will go away. They will. They will become a non-issue. Law of attraction will see to it.
Okay, my question. So, you're in the moment, and something happens. You're headed for a big argument. I mean, you could tell there's things that are starting to heat up a little bit. It's better to just kind of disengage and walk away and just.
Always. And the sooner you disengage, the easier it will be to not engage next time. There are those who want to engage, just fight it out,
Right.
and then
Win.
have a release or have a win, but it just parlays into something bigger and bigger and bigger. The sooner, in other words, when you look at it from the standpoint of upstream and downstream, the sooner you recognize that you're headed upstream and you release the thought and turn, then the sooner you come into alignment with who you are. And when you are truly in alignment with your inner being, you will never pick a fight with anyone, and you will never pick up the brick and engage in a fight that they have started. In other words, it's just because your inner being doesn't feel adversarial. Your inner being doesn't feel protective. Your inner being doesn't feel defensive. Your inner being doesn't feel justifying. When you're in alignment with who you are, you're in a state of well-being, and everyone you view is in a state of well-being as well, you see.
Right. And you're attracting that.
Sometimes it's hard, because if you wait too long and you get the other one all revved up and then you walk away, they're standing there. It's like, have you ever wanted to punch someone and they just become this soft pillow? It's just so disappointing, because because when they fight back, their energy coming back to you keeps the fuel fired.
Right.
But if you soften and relax, if you remove your part of the impetus to it, then it's much faster to dissolve. And what we've noticed, we said this a day or so ago, that sometimes people say, I've jumped out of an airplane, I'm at 40,000 feet, I have no parachute, what should I do? And we say, hang on, it will be over soon. And sometimes that's the way these arguments feel. It's as if there's no turning back from it. And in fact, it's as if you don't want to turn back from it. And when two people are here, have put their boat in the river in a place of feeling powerless, and they are holding the other one responsible for the powerless way they feel, and any effort that they make to improve the way they feel is taking them into revenge, sometimes that's the place where the argument ensues. And so really, the only remedy that we know to solve these kinds of eruptive relationships is, while you're not in the moment of engagement with the other, that you just reach for so many downstream thoughts that you are far from those negative emotions, and if you are, then you cannot be engaged. First of all, law of attraction won't hook you into an interchange, and even if you are hooked in, your responses will be so intuitive. You'll say the right thing at the right time. You'll be the uplifter that you are born to be. Do you know what we see in almost every argument that any of you are having? What is at the basis of it is that your personal realization, and sometimes it's pretty far below your conscious awareness, but it's a realization that I'm supposed to feel good and I'm supposed to be an uplifter because that's who I truly am, and in this moment I'm not being that, and it's your fault because you hooked me in. And it's sort of, when you're not in alignment with who you are, you take it really, really hard, because you innately know that you're supposed to be in alignment, you see. And so it's like, I'm blaming you that I'm not in alignment, and you're blaming me that you're not in alignment, and we're just sort of duking it out because we're both frustrated out of our mind that we're not in alignment. And we say, just get in alignment. Just do it a little bit at a time, but leave the other one out of the equation. Never let somebody else be responsible for how you feel. That's why we were encouraging you to get your notebook and write someone's name in it and say, what is it about you that I'm thinking that's causing me to go upstream? Can you feel the empowerment that gives you? It's not, what are you doing that's making me mad? It's not, what are you doing that you need to change so that I can feel better? It's, what thoughts am I thinking about you that have me going upstream? And then the logical next question is, and what might I think about you that could get me going downstream? And then you take all your power back. You say, do whatever you want. I've got control of how I feel, which makes me lovely to live with.
I think I'm done.